progress for decades. And I guess I could talk a long time about his other accomplishments, but he's here to speak for himself. So, Larry Hamm. Just one more thing. He has decided to run for U.S. Senate, from Senator of New Jersey. On the Bernie Sanders line.
Larry, yes. Could you speak up there because we're on a Facebook live stream?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Power to the people.
Power to the people.
There are two fundamental crises facing humanity today. One is the threat of nuclear war, which would be the total annihilation of life as we know it. You would be unfortunate to survive a nuclear war. The other threat is that of climate change, climate cataclysm, and climate catastrophe. Just when we were walking in, the lady I was walking in with was telling me how in Birmingham, the people, it was announced, facing severe flooding. And we see this all over the country where people, just because of the weather, are losing their homes. When I was a little boy, I went to South 17th Street School in Newark, New Jersey. And I can remember in the fall, going through the park, West Side Park, and on any given day, you could look up in the sky and literally see flocks of birds flying in formation, going to wherever they go for the winter. You don't see that anymore. Many of the species of wildlife, not only birds, but other species, have been eliminated because of what humans have done to the environment. And what we're doing is so awful that it's not only killing off other species, we're threatening our own existence. So the need for a movement to fight climate change and to fight the fossil fuel industry and to fight those who want to maintain the status quo is more of a priority than it's ever been. The People's Organization for Progress, we're a grassroots organization. We fight for racial, social, economic justice and peace. Many of you have been to, or some of you have been to some of our meetings and some of our activities. But I think it would be fair to say that we're not known as an environmental organization, but we have supported many of the issues that you in this room and your organizations have raised. Many times people come to POP wanting an endorsement in the fight against the oil trains going through Bergen County, the Dakota Access Pipeline, divestment from the fossil fuel, and we have always voted in favor of those things and will continue to vote in favor of those things. But more importantly, I think what we need right now is a Green New Deal. I support the Green New Deal that has been raised by a number of individuals. Of course, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has gotten a lot of credit for raising the issue, but there were people who had a Green New Deal before her, and there are people who have come on board since with other policies. But I think it's safe to say that the People's Organization for Progress will support all of those initiatives that will move us toward a more sane environmental policy. And we have to be watchful on the question of policies at all levels, at the international level, with withdrawal of the U.S. from the Paris Climate Accords. That was clearly insanity. Not that the Paris Accords were any panacea. I mean, they left a lot to be desired. But with the level of contradiction in the world today between nations, if that's what we have at the moment, then we should work with that and try to build upon that and improve upon that, not do what Trump has done, the stupidest thing you could have possibly done, to withdraw the United States from the Paris Climate Accord. I think it was awful, and I think that we should do whatever we can, like other states and local governments. They are acting on their own and trying to enforce what they can, whatever pieces of the accords that they can at the local level and at the state level. But we have to save the planet. We have to stop fracking. You know, I saw an article the other day that some scientists have actually advanced the theory, or maybe it's not so much of a theory, but advanced the premise that we're having an increasing number of earthquakes because of fracking, because of what we're doing to release pressure from between the plates in the earth, and that is being caused by the fracking. In fact, they said that I think the most recent serious earthquake in Haiti may have actually been caused by fracking. So this is an issue. It has come up in New Jersey, you know, and Pop endorsed the fight against fracking. So this is another issue that we have to contend with. And of course, we have to develop alternative fuels. We need to shut down all of these nuclear power plants. All of them need to be shut down. Because what happens with the spent fuel rods from the power plants? They go to other communities. They don't go away. They're radioactive forever. You know, even what they call half-life. Even that half-life is still forever for the rest of us. And those spent fuel rods are buried in caves in other states. And like with everything else, where people of color have twice as much of everything bad, a lot of those spent fuel rods are buried in communities, near Native American communities and other communities of color. This is a real problem. You know, as long as we keep running these power plants, these nuclear power plants, we will have these spent, and it'll just pile up and pile up and pile up. And then the irony is what? They take these nuclear fuel rods, these spent fuel rods, and do you know that they were actually melting them down to reuse them as casing for bombs and missiles? That some of the soldiers that were coming home from Iraq had all these symptoms, and at first they couldn't really figure out what was wrong. They had radiation poisoning. And then they were trying to figure out where they were getting the radiation poisoning from. They were getting them because the payload in a lot of the tanks, the missiles that were in the tanks, were cased by fuel. The material from the fuel rods was reused as casing, not only for bombs, but for bullets also. So you have all these high radiation levels in parts of Iraq right now, and children are being born not only to the people of Iraq being born with these physical deformities because of radiation poisoning, but U.S. soldiers that were sitting in those tanks on top of those radiated missiles and bombs, their children are also suffering. I mean, we can't poison the world without poisoning ourselves. And all of you know, because I think many of you probably fought against the war in Vietnam, they made the dioxin right down here in North. And the ground is still a Superfund site. The dioxin that was used, what were we using? Agent Orange?
Yeah.
Yeah, the dioxin that was used in Agent Orange, some of it was manufactured right here in Essex County, right in Newark, New Jersey, down there in the East Ward, and that land is probably still poisoned. They probably built new apartments on some of those very sites. So we poison the people in Vietnam, we make Agent Orange, to defoliate the jungles of Vietnam, to try to in the fight against the so-called Viet Cong. And in the process, we poison the people of Vietnam. Their children are still being born with deformities. But who else? Children of the soldiers that were in Vietnam. Many of them got the dioxin into their systems. And their children are, and they're sick, the soldiers are sick, and their children are sick. So we can't pollute the air, pollute the water, pollute the land of other people and not do the same to ourselves. That's why it's imperative that we build a movement for environmental justice, but that movement can't exist within a vacuum. The environmental justice movement must be an integral part of the entire people's movement to transform this whole system that we live in. As long as we have a system that profits on war, we're going to build bombs, and the effect of that is going to be polluting the air, polluting the land, polluting the water, and we're going to poison other people and poison ourselves. As long as we have an economic system that's driven by profit and not driven by helping people, you know, that's why we're having such a hard time stopping. That's why the fossil fuel industry, you know, it's like Bernie says, they behind the government. They got full-time paid consultants down there in Washington, D.C. I mean, just today, I read that we subsidize the fossil fuel industry 10 times more than we fund education in the United States. Now that's crazy. That's insanity. Can you imagine? Just today I read that. Some of you probably read the same thing. It was on Facebook, you know. It's not secret knowledge. So we have to build this movement. You know, and it's changing, but you know, not too long ago, you know, some people would say, well, the environmental movement, that's white people's movement. No, it's not white people's movement. It's everybody's movement. We all gotta breathe the same air. We all gotta drink the same water. We all gotta grow food out of the same land. But at the same time, the environmental people, some would say, well, fighting police brutality, that's the black people's movement. No, the police in America kill 1,000 people a year, just about, roughly. Some years a little more, some years a little less. But they roughly kill 1,000. All the people ain't black. About 328 a year are black. But that leaves what? About 600 more, right? They're white, they're Hispanic, they're Asian. See, because we get killed and stopped and beat in disproportional numbers, it makes it look like a black problem. But when you dig below the surface and you look at the real figures, you see that everybody is people of all races are being victimized by police brutality. So we have to link up all these movements. And I'm going to do more. I'm going to try and do more. I'm going to do more to be involved and be supportive of the movement for environmental justice and the movement to fight climate change. But I need you to be more involved, and some of you are. I don't know how many of you know the Shoykins, Henry and Mary. Henry just passed away. They were with Paula fighting the oil trains, right? And everything else, right? But then, after demonstrating against the oil trains in Bergen County, 100 years old. 105 years old, they would come down for Justice Monday and protest with us in front of the federal building. And I don't mean just once. They'd be down there like, when some people would live around the block were there, they would be there. So they understood that connection.
That was about police brutality.
Yes, that was about police brutality, but they were a great example of people who understood the need to be in both movements. And if there's anything I'm saying tonight, it is that we have to bring our two movements closer together and be more supportive of one another. And that's all I have to say.